Welcome back to Heavy Muscle Radio. I'm Dave Palumbo, and I'm joined by my two compatriots in crime, as always, John Romano and Chris Aceto. And it is July 18th, 2021. And we're actually recording late at night, which we haven't done in a while, because Chris has to go camping tomorrow. What's that all about, Chris?
Well,
wait. I want to first know why you have to go.
Because you have
Chris got to be working like me, you know.
Being kidnapped, you have to go.
You have obligations that you have to do as a husband or a father, and that's one of them. They want to go camping. So I said, okay, well, you know what? I do this. Oh, you know what? I got a better idea. Why don't we go rent a hotel? You know,
get rooms
in a rural area. You know, where it's like.
That's why you can go into the woods and play, but at least you can sleep at night without the bugs biting your ass.
And you got a coffee pot, and a big refrigerator, and a microwave, and hot water. And
you know, I asked my dad when I was a kid if we can go camping once because my friends were going camping. He goes, "Are you serious? I'm a kid." He said, "Are you serious?"
Yeah, we have a house, Dave. He must have said, just like the comedian. We got our own house. Why wouldn't we?
It'll be fun. But first of all, my father had no mechanical inclinations whatsoever.
That's like me.
He would never be able to even set the tent up.
I don't know.
I would have to done it.
I got my sons to set up. I don't know how to set up.
Now, how big of a tent do you guys have?
Well, we have two. We have a 4-person and a 2-person.
The mommy and daddy tent and the children's tent.
Yeah.
There's two visions I have in my head. One is like these little pup tents where you barely fit in the tent with your feet are sticking out. You see like John Candy going camping or something like that in one of those movies. And then the other one I envision is like, you know, you ever see these Arabian like kings? They have these humongous tents.
With AC.
It looks like the inside of a
house.
You know.
Right, and they put furniture in and hang
the ladder.
You got to call our friend in the Middle East there, Chris, and have him, you know, send over some supplies for you.
I can hack one of those. You know, this is the one with the bugs that come in. You know, the ones that don't protect you from the bears that are outside.
Oh yeah, you're in Maine too. You need air traffic control for the freaking bugs there.
Yeah, I'm more concerned about the ticks than I am the bears.
Yeah, Lyme disease, right?
Bugs.
Well, just all the diseases that ticks bring. And what the point is with ticks is, Dave, 30 years ago, or 40 years ago, whatever it is, when I was a kid, you'd hear like rarely like, I saw a tick.
Right.
Now on a windy day, my kids go to like track meets, like in a rural area.
Right.
And on a windy day, they blow around. They land on you like, they're everywhere.
Wow.
Not all ticks carrying disease, but most ticks do.
Now, whose idea was it to go camping? Your wife's or your kids?
No one's. It was my friends who they live in Hawaii, and they came, if you want to really laugh, 4 years ago, and they convinced us to go camping. So we went out and bought all the accoutrements that you need to go to live out in the woods. And as the comedian would say, to take 2 days of vacation and throw them away. And we have all the tents, all the equipment, the cooking utensils, all that. We've never used them since we bought them 4 years ago and went camping. Our same friends from Hawaii came back. And they said, let's go camping. And so they came back and they're staying with us tonight. And they said, when's the last time you guys were camping? I said,
it's like the Olympics every 4 years, you know.
Yeah, 4 years ago.
Wow.
Or in this case, 5 years, right, John? Because we missed it.
I was trying to eat, Dave. I was trying to eat like moldy bread and bagels in the house to try to like have to have my stomach legitimately pumped out.
You know, I don't understand this the tent thing. To me, Motel 6 is just fine. I mean, that's as far as camping you need to go. I mean, it's got a roof. You know, if you look at some of these campers, they show up with at the campsites with the transformer side, they go out like that, and they got the floor, the living room, the big screen TVs and shit.
Yeah, and you look out the way, John. That's what I would love. You could look out the window and see.
But what's the purpose of going camping at that point? You might as well just stay home. You know?
That's why I'm saying Motel 6 is camping by comparison. If you're going to have this transformer coach with the big screen TV, 2 big screen TVs, and refrigerator, Sub-Zero refrigerator. hardwood floors.
I'm gonna get out there and say, I wonder, Dave. I'm gonna get out there and say, I wonder, do they get Uber Eats? Can they deliver Uber Eats to the campsite number 304?
Is this like a really remote campsite, or is this like a popular remote?
No, it's fairly remote. It's in Bar Harbor, like east of Bar Harbor, west or south. It's near Bar Harbor. It's not Bar Harbor, because if it was Bar Harbor, it'd be glamming. What do they call it? Glamorous camping, glamping.
Yeah.
John's describing not camping. You're describing John glamping.
That comedian,
which is glamorous.
Yeah, that comedian's right there. If you're going to go on a vacation, you want to go someplace relaxing. Camping is not really that relaxing because of the bug issue and the heat. It's uncomfortable almost. So even though it's kind of it makes you forces you to get into nature and all that stuff. I understand that whole aspect of it. And I know for kids, they like it. They want to roast the marshmallows, but after 20 minutes of doing that, it's all right, well, what are we going to do now?
Yeah.
I'd give them a candle and a box of s'mores and then
light a fire in the backyard, Logan.
I had to go camping also recently, and we went to this campsite, and that's where I first saw those transformer coaches with the sides that come out and the big screens. And they bring like a thing that they put in the ground in front of the campsite, and it's got their name, like a mailbox, and it with a little flag from where they're from or wherever. It's got.
Do they plug into something? What do they do? Run generators? What do they do?
Well, yeah, they got a box, and they got a plug that goes in. They got a sewer hookup, and but some people go in tents. Some people go in those coaches. Some people go in these other pop-up things.
If you go in a tent, Chris, where do you go to the bathroom? You got to go in the woods.
Well, you rifle them. I guess you go out in the woods in the middle of the night because you don't want a Maine black bear to get you. No, you'd
be peeing every 2 seconds with the problem.
No, you ask for a camp site closest to the bathrooms and showers.
Yeah, when we had a cabin when I went, so that was technically a tent.
Was it air conditioned?
No, it was no. It had a fan, but it had no water. There was no bathroom either, so you had to go out to the thing. So at 2 o'clock in the morning, I got to get up and pee. I'm not walking over to the fucking thing, so I just open the door
and pee outside.
I'm in the woods, right? It's gonna walk over there to pee.
You didn't see any Bigfoots, did you, John?
No, but I gotta say, I can have empathy for Chris where he's going in the freaking up there where he lives. Bears, you mentioned bears. They got what else?
What else they got?
They got to have boars and shit. They got to have
coyotes
other kind of monsters.
Dude, listen,
believe me, the bugs are way worse. The bugs are way worse than the bears. I got news for you.
Have you ever gotten sprayed by a skunk?
Yes, I have. I've never been stung by a bee, but I was sprayed by a skunk when I was a kid. I was riding my bicycle down a hill, and I saw the skunk at the base of the hill. And literally when you have you walk left and you walk into someone, they walk left and right. You try to you hesitate. That's what me and the skunk did. I ran him right over, and then I didn't smell. It was weird. I wiped out and I banged my head and I didn't smell the smell. But my friends told me I got stunk, and I didn't believe it because I'd hit my head. And I went over to his house, and his mother washed me down with vinegar and tomato juice in the driveway for 3 hours.
3 hours?
Yeah, you put one bottle of tomato juice after another over your head with vinegar.
I heard that. Tomato juice is the only thing that gets it out.
Yeah. That's funny.
They have a plant that smells like that. It's called skunk cabbage.
Yeah, skunk cabbage,
It grows in New York, by the swamps. Yeah. But it's nothing like the real thing.
Yeah. I remember driving upstate New York. As soon as you start smelling the skunk smell, you're upstate New York. Yeah, that was like a real. I don't smell skunks around here where I live, although I've seen a couple, but I don't smell. Yeah.
Remember Taconic Parkway? They get hit by a car, and then you come around the turn, and
Dave. Well, when I was in junior high, my father pulled a your father. That's what I called it. We were getting skunk stink every night in the house.
Right.
So eventually my father figured out that he went and looked under the front porch, and there was a nest.
Oh, boy.
And at 3 a.m, he got sprayed to death. He went out there. He took the nest, he put it in the middle of the driveway, got the charcoal lighter fluid from the
burnt it probably, yeah.
Juiced it to death and lit it. And the fire department came. And he was standing there screaming at the top of his lungs when they told me he couldn't burn it down, couldn't burn it. He'd probably go to jail now for cruelty.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The neighbors would turn him in too. You know, they'd call the Nazi police to come get him. All right, but let's talk a little bodybuilding here. I hate when we have to report terrible news, but you have to honor these people that passed. But we lost 2 people actually in the industry. Actually, I think we lost more than 2 people. But obviously, the most well-known would be 2-time figure Olympia champ Jenny Lynn, who passed supposedly of a seizure. She was in bed supposedly with her husband, and she had a seizure, and he tried to revive her, and didn't happen. I had interviewed. I thought I interviewed her a year ago, but it was about 2.5 years ago. I interviewed Jenny as a kind of an update. You know, she used to work for RxMuscle. She used to do a radio show on our when we first started the site with Adela Garcia, and you know, she was just like a likable person. You know, she I think she won almost more figure titles than anyone else in the industry, and then she retired at some point, and she's been coaching people. So I don't really know what happened. It's terrible when you hear about these things. You know, usually we're talking about guys, and everyone's like steroids. You know, now you hear about a relatively young woman, about 50 years old, you know, dying. Obviously, she took care of herself. You know, it's shocking, really. I mean, you guys have any insights in it?
I actually was. I don't know, man. When stuff like this happens, I got to look at it from all angles. You don't just. I mean, from what the news is that she fell asleep and then had a seizure in her sleep and never woke up, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so now if you go to her Facebook page, you look in the last, weeks of June. She's posting all these songs, like 4 songs back to back to back, with these country titles, the man cheating on the woman, and tough times to get through shit, and woman hating, country singing women shit, and I mean, back to back to back, same theme, and then boom, the next week she's died of a seizure. I mean, I don't want to read anything into this, but I'm saying it just seems kind of weird that you would be posting this morbid kind of I'm upset, pissed, jilted, music on your Facebook page, and then the next week you're dead, with this insanely mysterious, sudden. I mean, was she healthy? Was she sick? Does she have a family history of this? It's just kind of strange, that somebody would just die like that, and a healthy, person.
I would imagine there's probably going to be a autopsy, wouldn't you think?
I would think. I think it depends on the state that you're in, what the actual law is. But generally speaking, when someone dies of, especially a young person dies of, an odd cause, or not, a disease in the hospital, they do an autopsy, So was she sick? Did she complain about anything?
I don't think so. No, I don't think so.
How was she during the interview?
Oh, she was fine but that was like 2.5 years ago. So I don't know. I mean, I knew a guy reached out to me, and he said that he talked to her once a month, and that she was doing fine as far as he knew. But who knows? Most people, when they say they talk to someone, it means they text with someone, and it's hard to find out if someone's got any kind of issues going on when you're texting with them. So it's really sad. I remember when she was competing and winning the Olympias, and she was beating, if you remember, Monica Brandt. That's when Monica was at the peak of her powers. And, Monica probably could have won a couple of those Olympias in there, and there was some politics involved, but they were battling it out. The two of them were like the best in the world. I mean, if you look back at their physique, this is what figure was really all about back then. And now it looks like, bodybuilding, but that's really, they were the best of the best at that time. So it's crazy. I mean, you never know when your time's up, really. That's what it amounts to. And I think people have to really, we say it over and over, but, every time I hear about another death of John and Chris, and you guys could comment on this, it almost makes me like, I feel like I'm playing dodgeball, and you know how like when you're playing dodgeball and if someone gets hit and they're out, you know, and then you're like, before you're looking around, there's only you and one other guy left on the whole dodgeball court. You know, I feel like that's what's happening. I mean, it's kind of eerie in a sense.
It's funny, Dave, looking at that picture, because you look at a picture and you say, what a killer physique, killer body.
Yeah.
And how the division is morphed so far from that.
Yeah.
You know, it's you know, makes me wonder, like, is it the bodybuilder or the bodybuilders see? Is it the quote athletes who are morphing it that way? Or is it, you know, the judging panel that's rewarding different looking physiques and morphing it that way? I would say it's the latter because, you know,
I remember when we would sit in the judging panel.
Because the control is not with the athlete. It's with the, you know, the judge put down the foot.
Rewarded, yeah.
Right.
I remember we would sit in this judging panel, and you guys probably remember, and we would be looking at the girls, and I'd be critiquing every single person on stage, and we'd be saying, "What do you think about this one?" And we would say, "Oh, she's too muscular. She's not going to do well." And we would always be right. They would do the call outs, and the muscular girl would be the last call out.
Yep.
Now, the biggest girl with the, you know, the freakiest looking girl is the winner, you know. So
they do that all the time. It's what they always do. They do
but
that.
why did they let this get away? They had it.
That's the point, Dave. That's the point I'm trying to make. Is you know, I mean, if you the whole point in creating a division is to create a look, and then you can't control the look. What is the whole point in controlling the starting the division in the first place? It's like starting wellness and then saying, you know what, we like the quote, you know, big behinds, but we're looking for total striated glutes in the next 4 years.
And that probably will be what happens. But that's wellness. But figure was always something that they had reined in really well to keep a clear distinction between figure and bodybuilding. And then they created women's physique, which should have really given them the chance to kind of reboot figure and bring it backwards a little bit. I remember when Heather Dees was at the top of her game, and Candace Keene, and now these girls, Heather has trouble. She's still in the top 5, but she's not. And she had to put a lot more size on to do that.
The only division that's held it together with respect to how they've been able to maintain a certain physique throughout the years has been fitness, and that's because they rely so heavily on their ability to do fitness shit. Yeah. So that kind of limits them right there, and their physiques have been pretty much. Yeah. I don't know. Have you seen gigantic sways in the fitness physiques? No. So
what they should have done is women's physique should have been run like men's physique. It should have been a weight limit per height, so that would have kept them in check. Figure should have been kept to what the standard was before, which was an achievable look, I think. I mean, I'm trying to think of who was a good example of Jenny was a good example, but you could look even to people after her were really good too. That you can say, okay, Candace Keene was really good. Nicole Wilkins probably should have been the standard that they stuck to. I think they got away after her when she lost. That's when they got carried away.
There's nothing wrong with the looks that are being presented now, but
they're great physiques.
Yes, but phenomenal, outrageous. But you crowd out, the class for which the look was, for that look that it was originally designed for. Yeah. Which is a whole nother. You're missing a whole nother competitive group of people who want to look like that picture that you just put up, which is a killer beach body, period. I mean, that is probably...
Muscle, but with muscle.
Yeah, well, you know what, Dave? We laugh. We say with muscle, but, 30 years ago, that would be remarkably muscular right here. But for most people who join a gym who are females, that's not, quote, too muscular at all. But it's a look to aspire to. It's still a competitive look.
Right.
I mean, it's just like you're missing out on a division that's like you don't see that physique there anymore and never will, which is too bad because it's an attractive physique.
Yeah, even bikini is more muscular than that now.
Yeah, maybe to some degree. I think that if you think about it, I think women's physique. I mean, the figure girls that have those amazing physiques that we love to look at because we like muscle, let's face it. Those are the girls that should have gone to women's physique. And that's what physique was designed for, right? For those girls to go there and pose, because they have physique. Those top figure competitors can absolutely do women's physique, at least the way it was originally intended to, maybe not now, because now it's like bodybuilding, but they lost control, but maybe they'll rein it back in, who knows. But the bottom line is we send our prayers and condolences out to Jenny Lynn's family, of course. I want to also bring up another death in the industry, unfortunately. There was a wellness competitor. I don't think any of us really knew who she was because we don't follow wellness that much. But here's her on Instagram. She has 152,000 followers. Odalis Santos Mena. And great physique, great wellness look to her. And she went in and had some procedure done where they remove your sweat glands. Have you ever heard of this? I didn't even know they did this.
Yeah.
I don't even know what it's called, but
the thing is, the way that was reported was so sloppy. First of all, the death was attributed, from what I can tell, to the anesthesia, not the heat procedure. The procedure, it's a heat kind of, like the opposite of the cool sculpting. It's like a heat thing that fries the sweat gland for people who sweat profusely, and that's the procedure she wanted to have done. And they're making it sound like it was that procedure that caused her death. It wasn't. Had nothing to do with it. She died from some complication from an unlicensed anesthesiologist.
Are you serious? Unlicensed?
Yes. Well, Mexico, right? Was it done in Mexico, John?
Yeah, Guadalajara. I happen to know the place they're talking about.
Oh, really?
Well, it's so funny. It's skin piel, or piel skin, and piel is Spanish for skin, so it's technically skin. So it's kind of funny to think.
Out of all the medical procedures that you want to make sure someone's licensed, would be anesthesiology.
Oh, yes.
After the Dan Duchesne girlfriend incident with the calf implants and her losing her legs, you'd think no one would ever do another crazy thing like that again.
But that's not a crazy thing. That's the thing. A sweat gland procedure is not a crazy thing at all. It's a very simple, common procedure. So for them, what's that?
Wasn't so common for her, obviously.
Well, like I said, it wasn't that procedure. It was the anesthesiologist that.
Well, maybe she should have had it done in the United States instead of in Mexico.
If that was to be the case, you think you have a border crisis now? When do they start coming over to get fixed?
It's a shame. It's a beautiful girl.
It's terrible, man. And she was young too. 24.
Yeah. So right in the prime of her life. This is terrible. And they're trying to say the steroids had some kind of interaction with.
Yeah, steroids.
You hear that
interaction? Which is
Dave,
they always like to throw the steroids into there.
Dave, what was the article I sent you last week about? Somebody died or something, and they said he was taking nutritional supplements.
Oh, really? Yeah.
What was the article I sent you?
I don't even. You think I remember? I can't remember what I did yesterday, Chris.
I know that.
Oh, that's terrible. She was, but you know what? I got to say this though. In Central America and Mexico, South America, these women are fucking nuts. The shit they do to themselves is just insane. I would read articles in Mexico all the time in the Mexican newspaper about these women. This one woman got sent to prison for 30 years for injecting motor oil into people. Industrial silicone, glue, all kinds of shit they inject in their ass and their face and their lips and their legs. They're nuts. And they have no compunction about it whatsoever. They have parties, and they come over, and somebody brings the stuff, and they're jabbing it all in. It's like, it's fucking nuts. And these Latin women, God love them, they have this thing that they gotta be. Whatever womanhood has to come out of them extra hard. So if regular women are like, 8, 9, they're 12, 15, on a scale of 1 to 10. So, and it's always got to be, I have never, in all the years I lived in Mexico, I never once saw a Mexican girl leave the house like in a pair of sweats and no makeup.
Really?
And if they go across the street to mail a letter, it's fucking sunglasses, haircut, outfit, shoes, you know. I'm telling you, you never, ever see a Latin girl undone. Never.
Sweat glands are there for a reason. Okay, just for anyone else out there who has any kooky ideas on doing this stuff, they're there for a reason. Okay, they get rid of waste. Okay, that don't try to remove something that doesn't need.
Well, wait. The reason she was going, some people profusely.
I know, but that's what the antiperspirants are for.
No. Have you ever seen anybody with that condition?
No.
I had a guy in my gym that had it, and this guy would just drip. He looked like he got out of the shower all the time. That's what this guy was drenched. His hair was wet. You shook hands with him. It was like grabbing a fin.
Yeah, but you can't fix it when you sweat everywhere. She was just doing her underarms, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah, well, because that's the worst part. You know, if you're in your clothes and all of that shit, women have it. You know.
Yeah, but that usually is controllable because that you can put an antiperspirant on, you know.
But Dave, you're talking about women who get their lips done, their chin done, their eyebrows done, Botox, fillers. You could make a list of 20 freaking things that you go open the freaking cabinet underneath your wife's sink and look at the freaking array of goop under there. And they all got it. Chris, I'm sure yours does too. They all do, don't they? I mean, bottles and tubes and you can't even identify the shit. Someone's from other countries, and you know, it's just this is what happens. They get so wrapped up and involved with their vanity that they do a procedure like. She is not the first girl who has died by virtue of a vanity procedure. The girls die all the time.
I'm sure guys die too, but you know, more women have the plastic surgery type procedures being done, obviously. All right, all this death is getting me in a bad mood. So I got to just liven us up before we start the talk about some contest coverage here. So let me pull this. One of my guys sent me this. He made it. You guys will like this. Let me see if I got it here. Hold on.
This is the one you sent me earlier.
Yeah. Let me know if you hear the sound. Hold on.
Chris, you're gonna love this. You got Mr. G in the background with the fake
that stupid mask. The Arnold Mask, right?
Arnold Mask.
It's the Empire, John. I was telling Dave.
But Chris, can you
do it again? Hold on. It is too good. That's in the Arnold Mask. Is that Mr. G or Bobby Small?
It's either Bobby or Mr. G. They were trading off.
One was wasn't one? Who was one? Donald Trump or something like that?
Oh wait, no, maybe that's him in the white behind him, and he was Hulk Hogan. Wasn't he Hulk Hogan, and the other one was.
It was probably Bobby Smalls was Arnold, yeah.
Yeah, that's how it was. Because that looks like Mr. G behind him in the white shirt.
How did he make his head move like that?
I don't know. The guy's a genius.
You guys can hear that noise, right? The music, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Come on, Chris, you gotta love that.
I was expecting when Dave sent it to me that there would be a different that'd be saying something different.
We got creative viewers,
Wait, who made this? We got to talk to him. We got to give him some direction.
We got to get him connected with the other guy who does the sound bites for us, right?
Oh yeah. Oh man.
Holy shit.
We have the most creative audience. We have gotten sent the most amazing things over the years that people make. It's just incredible.
I don't know how they do it. They did a great job with that. So
yep.
Thank you. All right, let's. I wanted to mention there was the Portugal Pro this weekend. Took place in Portugal. Astoria, Portugal.
But did it actually take place in Portugal? Because you got these Chicago and Atlanta.
I know. I'm surprised that they're not locked down. I think Portugal's the only country not locked down.
They had an amateur show too, Dave.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, I'm saying because a lot of people in Europe can't find a place to compete because they're so locked down here. The Europeans are like the Australians. They'll lock that place down in 3 seconds. As soon as like one case pops up in a deli somewhere, they're like, oh, lock down the country,
Lock down the country.
I feel bad for the bodybuilders there because they're really strict there. Here they lock down here and no one listens to them, no one cares. But there they arrest you, if you don't.
I feel bad for the deli owner. He's the guy getting hurt.
Someone suggested, next time they want to do a lockdown, they should lock down like the big chains like Walmart and Target and all these other chains that are making all this money when they're locking down, and just keep the small businesses open. And maybe that would help people, the economy come back,
And the narrative goes out the window. We can't do that.
Of course not. Of course not.
No.
Well, what were you just saying, Chris, about the? You know who? Another terrible story. Bill Phillips has got COVID for the second time. He's on a ventilator.
What?
Yeah, Bill Phillips of EAS and Muscle Media.
No shit.
Yeah, I should have. I forget where that clip is.
Ventilator is no good, man. That's a bad sign.
No, and this is his second time getting it.
So much for immunity, then, huh?
Yeah, well, with this new Delta variant now, supposedly. What do you think about all this? I know, Chris, you were very vocal about that when I sent it to you.
You sent me the picture, and I said it's a little challenging to have sympathy.
And why do you say that?
Because he could have been vaccinated, but God forbid he had to weigh out possibly the intrusion of that versus death.
Yeah,
I mean that's what it is. And when you're unvaccinated, of course, that's what vaccines do. They look for the weakest host to jump to it, right? Recreate themselves a variant on any virus that is immune to treatment or is immune to your immune system.
Right.
So by definition, your immune system is an immune system. It's supposed to fight viruses, but at the same time, viruses love immune systems so that they can replicate and become stronger.
True.
Mm-hmm.
There's Bill and his wife, Maria. She posted thanking everyone for all the prayers and everything like that, and that he's stable. He's still on the vent. He's on a low vent now, as opposed to, I guess, a high-pressure vent.
So high-pressure ones that are bad, man.
Yeah. So I hope he pulls out. The guy.
No, Dave, you should post the picture because it might scare someone to become a woke liberal idiot and get a vaccination.
I'm trying to find the picture.
It's terrible. The picture's horrible. It's
I know.
Absolutely. I cannot believe it was posted because it's just so terrible. But apparently,
she wanted people to see that, that
she
they were
wanted,
serious. Yeah.
She posted it and she wanted people to see the level of suffering that he was in and how close he is to not making it, so that her message is now, well, we should have got a vaccine.
Yeah, that's probably the message. But you know what? It's funny because
that is the message. That's why I said you can post it. That is it.
I wonder why she didn't say that in the post. You would think she would.
I can send it to you. Yeah, she did. I'll send it to you.
She did.
I'll send it back to you. Yes. She says, she makes a point that, what, geez, maybe we should have been vaccinated.
Oh, okay. She did. Okay.
And people, please.
The thing about Bill is that Bill was a guy who was always like impeccable about the way he eats and the supplementation he takes. I mean, if anyone out there ever read Muscle Media 2000, I mean, the guy.
Dave, there's the text. She starts off with, "Please get vaccinated."
Yeah, I'm looking on the Facebook to see where she posted. I don't see it.
She probably took it down due to political pressure. I bet.
Yeah, maybe it's possible.
How dare you recommend people get?
When you see someone like Bill Phillips go down, I mean, like I said, because of the fact that he does take such great care of himself, and he's a guy that was always into supplements and eating right and being healthy and working out, it scares you. It can scare you because that means it can affect anyone, really, if you think about it. So anyway, we'll send out some well wishes to Bill, and hopefully he recovers fully. Maybe we'll get him on the TV show if he ever, if he decides to. He's a tough guy to get. I've had Sean on, his brother, Sean Phillips, who's by the way, is a great interview. Sean, he knew everything that went on. He told me the full story of the whole EAS story, but I'd love to get Bill on to get his take on the whole thing. I mean, because that was
I had reached out to him to get him on our show. Yeah. He agreed. He was happy to do it, and then he just disappeared.
Yeah, he's a little antisocial, I think, in that sense. But he really influenced me. I mean, his business model of the time, which was to start a magazine, educate the public, and then start a supplement line and market the line through the magazine because of the education you're giving people. I mean, that's what we really did. That's what I did, at least on, with the RxMuscle and Species Nutrition, because they kind of, work together. It's a machine. Educate people. You give free information out there to people. Let them understand what the science of things are, and then let them make their own decisions based on, a high quality product line that you put out. And, I've talked to Rich Gaspari about that, and that's what Richie's always done too. I mean, he basically said, look, I wanted to use the best stuff when I was competing. So I made the best stuff, and so we all kind of copied Bill Phillips in a sense. And if it wasn't for Bill Phillips, there would be no Scott Connolly. People don't realize Metrex was successful because Bill Phillips launched it first, in his platform.
Well, Bill copied Joe to a large extent too, because the original magazine, of course, was Muscle Fitness that had, ironically, had to buy it for a fortune. But it had all the ads in it that were Joe's ads for supplements, but it had, training and nutrition advice in it.
The difference, though, is that Joe didn't sell you. He bamboozled you with the ad, with the commentary and the editorial in there. But what Bill said was these other magazines are full of crap. This is crap, and this is good stuff. We're not going to take the ads from the crap. We're only going to take ads from people who actually test their products. And
Bill was the 100% same as Joe. The difference is his shtick was he talked about steroids, had the balls to where Joe would never.
Right, but I'm saying
and Bill ripped off a lot of stuff that Dan Duchesne,
Well, they were in cahoots. I mean,
and he had the watered down version of Dan Duchesne. So the excitement was that you could get a magazine that would talk about branched chain aminos and whey protein. And by the way, I sell those products too, and it's called EAS. But let me have John Romano break down for you, or Dan Duchesne break down for you the difference between DECA and Nandrolone. On 4 pages that you can't put down.
Well, that's true. That's true. He definitely did do that. But one of the biggest things that he did that really made a huge departure in what he was doing versus everybody else was when he wrote the supplement guide. Remember that?
Yes.
And he talked about everybody, and it was a big piece of work. I mean, it was not a hodgepodge. That was a very well researched, good book, and he put himself out there just like everybody else, So it was a very fair,
He sold other people's products initially because remember, he sold AST Research's dimetadrine, rather. You remember he sold Ultimate Orange from Dan Duchesne. He had Designer Protein, was not his. That was Next Nutrition, I think it was called, or something like that. That was the first whey protein that I know of on the market, even though Bleckman swears that he was first to market on.
Yeah, Twin was first to market with everything, everything, orange juice.
I'm sure Bleckman hated that Bill was so successful because that's really what Bleckman wanted to do. It was very similar to what Dan did. I mean, what Bill did.
What was more successful for him, the Metrex or EAS? Because they were both like blockbusters.
Well, Connolly had to buy him out of Metrex because he owned 50%. That was their deal. So I don't know what he made on that, but when he sold EAS, they made like $350 million. So I'm assuming EAS was a better payday rather.
Yeah.
But didn't Bill originally buy EAS from Anthony Almada, John?
Or Almada was one of the partners originally and then got
I think Bill bought it from him, yeah.
Or did he bought it from him or he bought him out or some shit? He was involved in some way, but it was that little core of them that spun off Metrex and then later EAS, and then that was man, you want to talk about a turning point in industry? That was it right there.
Yeah. And why, John?
That was, well, supplements. I mean, it became the thing. I mean, it broke way out of the gym. It broke out of everywhere, and it was supplements. And there were so many different ones you could take that did all of these different things. And
but Bill would tell you which one. I believed him because I was a science guy. But Bill would tell you which ones were bullshit and which ones actually did something, and show you the science of it. And that's what impressed me, and that's what I try to follow in his footsteps, in the sense of saying, hey, you know what? Yeah, this stuff sells good, but it's bullshit. It doesn't do anything, you know. Connolly was the same way. He hated bullshit supplements, but the stuff that works, you know, if there was science behind it, he was 100% in favor of it, obviously, because I mean, just for the first time in the history of our supplement industry, putting together proteins in a logical way. In other words, using, you know, different sources of protein, which is what Metrix was: egg protein and egg albumin and whey and you know, casein in such a way so that the protein was like a time release type of effect on it. And you know, no one had ever done that before. It was always like basically powdered skim milk with sugar. I mean, let's face it, that's what all the Weider products were, and anyone else who had anything else, which was really not that many. I think GNC had their own brand, if you remember, with like egg and milk protein. It was basically, it was just, it would destroy your stomach. You know?
It wouldn't even mix. But that was the turning point, Chris, was science-based products, products backed by science. Basically, that was that. And that before that, what products were backed by science before that? I mean, ever.
Bill funded those creatine studies too. I know that. Yeah.
He had a bag. He told me he had a bag of creatine under his desk for like 6 months before he even did anything with it.
Blackman crawled under the desk and found it. That's why he thinks he was first to market on the stuff, you know.
What an ego with that little maniac that he has to say that they were first to market with, and he would get so blown out of shape when you.
And Almada definitely had it first. We know that.
Oh, I know. Even Phillips would say in the magazines, you know, Steve Bleckman likes to say he came out with it first. But the fact of the matter is, you know, and you get the proof right there, and Bleckman's still saying, Twain was first to market.
You know what it was? Steve read a book about creatine probably like before anyone did, and he just didn't think to actually make it into a supplement, or that it could be made into a supplement. So in his mind, he was first because he probably spotted it first. You know,
he probably had it in one of those giant piles of paper in the conference room somewhere.
But that's what made it good, because there was Twin Lab competing with Connolly, competing with Phillips. And then Weider was just still trucking along with the same crap that he had out, but people bought it because he had Lee Haney and Lee Labrada and all those, and Gaspari using it, and of course people are going to use it because of that, right? So
the Victory line,
Barry DeMay and all those guys.
So. And now, how did you know? What's really funny is that the whole Victory thing was Sergio Oliva. You know?
I know.
Sergio Jr. has a clothing company called Victory Clothing. So, how did Weider write Victory?
Because he was the first to market with it.
Right. He had his face on Robbie Robinson's body, and he had Sergio's name. You know,
he had Robbie Robinson's body had his head on. He stole Sergio's name for his company. Right,
Joe. But you know, Joe is smart. He was a genius.
And then Joe stole freaking Milo of Croton's original, you know, systematic, you know, progressive overload system. You know,
is that who it's
Milo? Well, because Milo of Croton 600,000 years ago used to throw a cow over his shoulder, a calf, and walk up the hills. And then as the calf grew, it got heavier. He got bigger and stronger. And that he was the first bodybuilder. And of course, you know, that progressive overload. Then Joe took that.
All I know is
that Joe was very sensitive to the Weider training principles.
Yes,
as like being like legitimately his. So like if you said like you know, I do with me and Dave and John train, we do bench press, and then we jump off and do cable crossovers immediately. You know, a superset or something. He'd have to brand it by saying it's a Weider superset principle.
Yeah, the Weider principles. Principles. Yeah.
pre-exhaustion principle.
He invented it.
Yeah.
All I know is that Blackman would have ruled the empire if he would have just put his head on Kai Green's body. He blew it.
It was what it really was Blackman, because Joe was the trainer of champions,
right.
You know, and Joe had access. Joe could rub oil on Lee Haney, you know, and that would drive Blackman nuts. Okay, because he wanted to rub oil on Lee Haney. All right, so and to the tune of many millions of dollars later, he still didn't get the chance. But that's what he wanted. He wanted to be the trainer of champions. Yeah. So it was like, that was where the whole, you know, because Joe would go to the photo shoots and Joe was active and involved. You know,
it's like
that's what Blackman had to be there. So remember Elise reading the book in the gym? She's got to watch him, you know.
John, it's like
you couldn't go alone to the photo shoot.
It's like some NFL owners, John, want to own the team and sit up in the skybox, right? And have a martini.
Wants to be on the sidelines.
No. And other people, they want to get on the sidelines and they want to be able to put their head in on the huddle with
Cuban, all those guys,
Let me see what you guys are doing.
That's funny.
They want to be like totally involved.
Yeah. But Joe, you never got the homo vibe from Joe. And even though he published kind of like homo magazines to some degree back in the day, you never got that vibe from him ever, never. And Blackman, you
got that vibe from Blackman, John? Really?
What's that?
So you got that vibe from Steve?
You didn't?
No, I'm just kidding.
The shoulder rubs in the restaurant alone.
No, I didn't. You knew him better than me. You know him better than me.
It was a creepy vibe. But he's kind of like a peculiar looking guy anyway, you know what I mean? So of course I guess you got to be eccentric to be successful, you know, in the magazine industry. Because it seems like every magazine owner is very unusual looking. You ever notice that? Very, very. Even when we met with that guy Stanley Harris, you know,
Bellick was kind of normal. I thought Stanley was normal.
Yeah, I guess.
You know, I mean, normal looking. The only thing Joe had the strongman, you know, mustache with the wax. So
did Blackman, didn't he have that too at one point?
Blackman copied Joe. If Joe did it, Blackman had to do it. It was pathetic. You know, just look at him at the photo shoots. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
If his wife is sitting there reading a book so he doesn't schmo out too bad, it's an issue. You know.
Oh my God! All right, let's talk about the Portugal Pro. Andrea Presti from Italy wins it. Let me pull up a picture. They don't. NPC News doesn't have the pictures up yet, but I'll let me get the his Instagram up.
Yeah, just put him up.
I want just put him up. He did. I want to give him some credit here. There we go. Chris, give me your whole take on Andrea.
Good V taper, really good conditioning. Nothing. This is nothing overwhelming, nothing underwhelming. And in a lineup like this, it gives him, like the judges saw it, straight firsts. I don't know if he should have been straight first, but he looked, he was really good. He's wide. He's got a really good V taper. I mean, if you look at pictures in the lineup, like I said, it's not like he's like a power physique that knocks you off your seat. But as you can see here, great condition, which he was also in very good condition. In Puerto Rico, he competed there, made top, I think, 4 or 5. And I think built on that condition here. And I think that was probably, I think what won it for him is his balance and his condition. And thirdly, his lack of weaknesses. Lack of weaknesses when you have great condition, can put you right close to the top in a lot of these shows.
That's very true. Very true, for sure. Why do you think it was that we didn't see more Americans in the show? There's not one American in this open lineup. Here's a perfect opportunity for a guy like a Steve. Well, I know Steve Kuklo is going to be doing the Texas show, but I'm just saying, even like a Kuklo or a guy like that, to show up at the show. Even like how come we didn't see a Nathan D'Asher at this show? You know, going in there.
Probably because it's a pain in the ass to go all the way to hell.
No, not if you're in England. It's not. But I don't know what the travel restrictions are. But I see a lot of Russian guys in the lineup here. You know.
Well, no. You asked why no American guys were there.
Nah, these guys don't. Bodybuilders don't care. They'll fly. They'll get on an airplane.
You can just wait and go to Chicago.
Yeah, but think about the level of competition you're going to see there. You're going to see it's going to be a stacked lineup. You know, the chances of you winning one of these USA shows, Tampa, Chicago, is very slim because there's only going to be so many slots available. You're going to get guys like Ian Valliere in there, and you're going to get your Hunter Labradas, and you know, where does that leave a guy who's almost at that level, but maybe needs, this is a good opportunity for like a, I don't want to say a B level bodybuilder, but the A, but on the lower end of A level bodybuilders to kind of snag an Olympia qualification.
We talked about this as sort of a strategy, thing where they're gonna decide like what shows to go and do. Yeah, running over to Portugal might have been a good idea, but I guess there's going to be other chances that might be a little bit more convenient.
There's not that many chances out there, really, if you think about it. I mean, Chris, you helped, what's his name?
William Martins.
William Martins, who we interviewed a couple weeks ago, and he took third here. That was he went all the way from Brazil there. I mean, I don't really know what travel restrictions are, but in his case, he had to. I believe he stayed in the Bahamas a while. What was the Puerto Rico show? Where was it? In the Bahamas or was it in Puerto Rico? Yeah, Bahamas.
Okay, it was in the Bahamas. So due to COVID, he had to stay there for an extended period of time. And then I think he didn't even go home to Brazil. He went over to Portugal. So, while it seems like things are opening up all over, there's still some travel issues. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like he couldn't go home, train, and then go to Portugal. Yeah. And I don't know, now that he's in Portugal, can he just jump on a plane tomorrow and go back to Brazil? Or do they say, you have to wait?
But he's qualified now. So he doesn't have, so what? If he gets stuck there for 2 weeks, the Olympia is not till October. You know what I mean?
No, he's not qualified. The winner's qualified.
But he doesn't have enough points?
Yeah. No, he got no points. He was seventh no.
Oh, right. I thought he was top five. He looks really good here. I mean, the guy you've got him shredded. This is definitely the leanest I've ever seen him.
Yeah, no, he's come such a long way in a couple of years, and I think to contrast him with the winner, I think he's bigger than the winner, and I think he's actually harder than the winner. And do I think the winner should have won? Yes. So there's the point in. When you ask about what are the attributes of the winner, is balancing. His condition was great, but balance is balance means balance between the body parts, but it also means flow too. So, a lot of times when you have really strong balance under the lights, it enhances the way you look, and you end up exposing people for structural issues or, one body part being dominant over another, your competitors, where yours, may have a better flow. So That's why I think the winner came out as the winner here, meaning he was deserving, but just, it's not always about condition and size.
I agree with you in that sense. And William has a ton of muscle and freaky, conditioning, but his waist is a little big. We talked about this before the show. And that's something he's just going to have to keep working on, putting on more muscle to balance that off. Tim Budersheim was second, and I don't have a stage picture of him, but he's got a really nice physique too. Yeah. All these guys were really shredded.
All of them were.
That's pretty impressive when you get a show where the top, 5 guys are all cross-striated and have glutes,
Yeah, Budersheim's a good bodybuilder, really good balance. He falls into the category of the winner, really good balance. Usually in tremendous condition, and I think he was in really, really good condition here. I think he was, the last time I saw him, I think a couple of years ago, he was second at the Cal Pro, and he was way overlooked that same year at the New York Pro. I think he was 6th.
Yeah.
But really good bodybuilder.
What did you think?
Why do you think the condition is so much better among these guys?
The European guys, you mean?
Yeah.
I think this lineup, like if you look, it's such a good question, John. I think if you look at this lineup and if you remove William Martins, who's like the biggest in the lineup and kind of like quote freaky, the guy that got first, the guy that got second, the guy that got fourth, or let's say, yeah, even the guy who got fourth, but the guy who got fifth. So everyone else, nobody's huge and nobody's really big. They're good professional bodybuilders, big, but they're all in tremendous condition. I think that, just the mindset is if you're, I mean, let's contrast it with Keem. They're all tiny compared to Akeem.
Right.
I mean, if you're Akeem competing against these guys, why would you diet down, peeled out of your mind when you can beat them? This would have been a cakewalk for Akeem, right, Dave?
Oh yeah, but you don't even need an Akeem here. I mean, you can get a guy, I said. Use someone else, Dave. I just want to use the extreme example. I was thinking like a 7th, 8th, 9th place guy would probably have won this show, But
yeah, somebody really big who's a little bit off, but big enough to, that you say, well, he's off, but he's still a lot bigger and freakier than these guys. So I think they have to come in that type of condition to be effective.
What did you think about the 212 winner, Lucas Coelho from Brazil?
They're really good. Excellent thighs, midsection. I think same thing, lack of weaknesses and extremely good detail made it a pretty convincing win for him.
The guy's a freak, right? He's got some freaky muscle. Look at this. I mean,
wow.
A lot of muscle maturity.
How do you think he'll do with the Olympia in the 212 division?
Top 10.
Yeah.
Probably crack the top 10 somewhere. It's so hard to say in the 212 because, you spit that out, top 10, and then you start, it's like the Olympia. When you start handicapping the Olympia, and we forget about people and say, oh my gosh, what an insult. We forgot about,
Forget how good some people are,
Yeah. Yeah, well, you forget how good they are, and then you go to the Olympia, and you're like, wow, how did I forget about him?
Right. What do you think about the classic winner? I know you like him.
Yeah. Who? Yeah. It's a
Jose Maria.
Yeah, I think he's got more like a. Is that who won, or was it Masselman?
No, Jose won.
The amateur or the pro?
Pro. I'm talking about the pro 212. I mean, classic physique. Sorry.
Classic. Put a picture up of him, Dave. I think I got confused because there were several shows this weekend.
Yeah. No, I know. It's Jose Mete. Hold on. So Maria Mete. John, explain the Spanish last name thing. They have two last names, right? The mother and the father.
They have their mother's maiden name comes first, and then their surname. So you would have your name, your middle name, your mother's maiden name, and then your surname.
I got you. And what do they use as like their legal name?
Usually their surname, the last one. Some of them don't. Some of them use the mother's maiden name. It depends on how cool it sounds, Oh,
so they can pick basically.
They can. I mean, generally the rule of thumb is it's your surname, but some of them go by the mother's maiden name.
I can't find a picture of them.
So yeah, they pretty much all of them have 4 names at least.
Let me make it up then, Dave, without seeing them. Well, you look like classic lines, classic lines, classic.
That's what I would do.
Well, listen. That's like when judges say, like, what do I got to improve on? Well, you can be, bigger and harder. I mean, your hardness is good, but I'd like to see you harder. And you got good fullness, but nice to be a little bit bigger.
It must have been a good lineup, and I'll tell you why. Because Wesley Vissers, who has really made a lot of improvements. He's qualified for the Olympia the last 2 years. He actually had to settle for 3rd here. So I mean, and this was a picture of him like right before he competed. I mean, if that's not like an Arnold lookalike, and we've said this before, but he's even better now that he's gotten bigger and filled out his frame more. He's absolutely got such an Arnold-like physique, doesn't he?
Yeah, I do. Dave, the winner has a more hardcore bodybuilding physique that was, worthy of winning, but it definitely is on the edge of bodybuilding.
Yeah. I'd like to see Wesley go up to the open bodybuilding eventually. If he can add enough size, because
He probably
really
could.
Nice structure, you know.
Well, he can take the $500 and apply it towards his future prize.
Chris said he only won $500, right, for third place or something like that.
Yeah, professional, John. What do you think of that?
Wow, that's climbing up there.
The problem is these promoters don't have enough money to give out. That's the only thing I can think of. Look at those arms.
And what are they doing putting on shows if they got no money?
I know. It's just, God, thank you for the $1,000, $1 million question, John.
I don't know. I have no idea.
Stop being so logical, John.
Sorry.
I think that and this is good for the sport. When The Rock comes out with his Athleticon, he should have called it the Rock Games, by the way. I think that he missed the boat on that. But anyway, when he comes out with Athleticon, I believe it's coming out in April of 2022. I hear they're going to be giving away $1 million for every division in prize money.
Is it $1 million total purse, or are they giving $1 million first prize?
No, I think it's $1 million for the purse for the division. For each
John,
division.
remember when you said, what was that verbiage you used, John, for EAS, when you said it was not a watershed? The sale of EAS was a watershed moment.
Oh, windfall.
Windfall. Yeah. This will be a windfall and a watershed moment for the sport.
True.
If $1 million. You will, people who are,
should be $1 million for first place. $1 million. Then you can,
then drop it down to 300 for third place.
Can you imagine if the bikini girl?
You know what? That's a good point, Chris. Don't you think there should be a huge disparity between first and second?
Well, there is at the Mr. Olympia. I mean, $400, $400 grand does not chump change, and that's first prize. So it does drop off to second, third, fourth, fifth. I mean, fifth place to first place is massive difference.
Well, yeah, fifth to first, but I think first to second should be massive. It should be like $1 million for first place, $250 for second, and then on.
Well, I mean,
oh God, can you imagine John being up there losing by a point though? Say, here, Bob Ciccarolo, we've got 1 point. We've got 1.7.
I just lost $1 million. Yeah. But
one point is worth 500,000.
Yeah, I was gonna say, even if you got 800 grand for first place and second place got like 150,000, I mean that would be nice,
Yeah. I mean, look, if it was $1 million first place and then you got to go down to 250, making 250 is not too shabby.
No,
especially in bodybuilding.
Okay, but you know what? For the bodybuilders, it'll be great. But imagine for the fitness girls and the bikini girls who've never seen probably more than 20 grand maybe at the Olympia. I mean, imagine they're making like 500 grand. That's what is that going to do, and what message will that send? Number one, to Jake Wood at the Olympia. Number two, to all these other promoters that are holding these shows, the Arnold people, and even
I got the answer to that question.
What? Do they got to step their game up? I mean,
step up the fucking game.
Will they do it though?
Look, how about the football player? Okay, how about the football player that gets out of college, gets drafted, gets on the team? Now he's going from eating ramen and ketchup every night to $600,000, a year. Okay, when you become and that's not even the best. Right. That's like an average, above average guy. What's the average? 300-400 grand in the NFL?
Well, I think it's more than that now. Yeah,
so. It must be, right. What bodybuilders consistently making 300-400 grand? Come on, they don't make it. Right. So to be a top professional athlete, the best in the world, and you can't get $1 million first prize when you got freaking illiterate people who can't put string together sentences, walking around with freaking $100 million contracts. So I think there's plenty of money to go around, especially at the Olympia level, at the Arnold level, at the FitOcon or whatever the shit's going to be. There's money.
Well, I think The Rock is going to get primetime sponsors, is where the money's going to come from. The Rock is not dipping into his own bank account to do this.
No, but he should. He should. I mean, this is what
he doesn't need to. He can go to Under Armour. He can go to Nike and probably get the money from them. Because look, the guy is the most popular guy in the world pretty much at this point. You know,
it would be, and him making those inroads and getting it up like that would benefit Jake Wood and the Lorimers and everybody, because the mainstream sponsors would follow suit. They would follow them. You know,
I would hope so, right? I would hope so.
Well, of course they would. You can't have the Rock's guy, and then the same guy's going to compete, you know, for Lorimer, and they nobody's going to follow him. I mean, that's
look. I hope if the Rock could pull an Under Armour in or Nike in or whatever that he's going to pull in, that they would go and sponsor these other shows too. But they may not, you know. And
well, if
and
they
then
don't, they don't.
And then what happens? Does the Olympia become, you know, not so important?
Yeah.
How about that?
Of course it does. Of course it does.
Right?
Of course it does. Is there any debate on that? Do we need an iron debate on that?
No, I mean, it puts a lot of pressure on the Olympia guys to actually have to put out more money. And is the money there available?
Well,
I don't know.
To the Olympia's credit,
because
I've been hard on the Arnold on the show and saying that, you know, I always give the example Mike Francois won $100,000 in 1995.
Yeah.
And you know, the house that he bought for $174,000 is probably like $850 now.
It's crazy, right?
You know what I mean? So things go up. And what was $100,000 in 1995? It was real money.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not real money anymore.
Nope.
So when you win the Arnold, it's not like it was in 1995. The Olympia, be it you know, the National Enquirer Group, you know, continually added money to the men's prize. And Jake, you know, I mean, back against the wall with potentially no ticket sales, whatever, last year, still coughed up all that money and laid it on the line, had a great show. But he, you know, talk about stepping it up. But having said that, you know, to his credit and everything that he's done so far, if The Rock has a show and it's $1 million first prize, it becomes the #1 show, period, and ever. You don't need 35. You can smoke a 35 or whatever is 50-year history in 1 second by just
with $1 million check gone.
Yeah.
Well, you know what I would do?
John, if the first place was $1 million and the second was the same prize as the Olympia.
Yeah.
And you're preparing for the Olympia, please don't. You know what? All those guys who stayed and didn't take the Vince McMahon money and wanted to be loyal to Joe Weider, you know what? Good for them. They were loyalists. But the people who went to the WBF laughed their way to the bank.
Yeah.
Jimmy
Quinn, it wasn't for very long, but they did laugh.
Yeah. You know, what I would do is if you know, and I'm not running the Olympia or anything like that, but if it came down to that where I have to step up my game and I own the Olympia, which Jake does, doesn't it make sense to start bid it out like they do with the WrestleMania? Hey, who wants to hold this? Who's going to pay? Oh, you want to pay in the Middle East there? You want it in Dubai? You want to have it there? Okay. It's going to cost you $10 million because I got to put up the prize money for these guys. You're going to have to put up $10 million prize money. And you know what? I guarantee they wouldn't blink an eye. Yeah, it would leave Orlando, but you know what? That would solve your problem right there.
It's a brilliant idea, actually. Just because you own it doesn't mean you have to run it.
Right. No, not at all.
And in fact, you know, I mean, you can still be fully involved in it to some degree.
Right. He can make a lot of money doing that because he owns the brand. Let these other guys pay for it. Mannion and those guys are still going to run the show. They're going to judge it. And let Dubai or let, you know, Qatar or let wherever they want to, you know, Russia, let them fork the bill out for the prize money and everything else, you know. And
that's the underlying basis, and that's fantastic. But what you need a guy like The Rock for is what you said before, is he's the guy that's going to bring the Under Armour, the Nike, the Reebok. What you get sponsors like that behind it, then the whoever's holding it or running it is inconsequential, because you're talking big money. Now you've got not only you got $1 million first prize, but you got nice hotels, you got limos, you got airfare, you got all this shit now. And it's what it deserves. I mean, this is what, 60 years, 70 years this has been going on, and now this is
well, the excitement, John, and the passion is for the athletes to get paid.
Right.
And you know, I can hear it now. People who run the Olympia get like a little offended that we're critical of the prize money.
Of course, they always do.
Well, I mean, to defend them to some degree, I said Jake Wood was the one who stepped it up, and you know, even I'm no fan of David Pecker, but he stepped it up too by continually adding money. But who doesn't want to see the athletes? You know, the guy gets 8th place, walk away with a really strong payday.
Let's use David Pecker.
That's not happening right now.
Let's use David Pecker as an example. That was a great example. When he first came on board, I thought to myself, this is it. This is going to happen. Finally, we're here. We're at the mainstream. Yeah. He had the mainstream publications. He had access to every A, B, and C level celebrity you could name. He had access to everything. What happened? Well, that was Cinderella's slipper for bodybuilding. What happened? Yeah. You know, he didn't come through. There was, under David Pecker's reign, there was no reason why Mr. Olympia couldn't get $1 million. None. Zero. Except for the fact that they just didn't want to go through the effort to go and do it.
And why did they?
Well, because you know why? Because bodybuilders for 70 years have been taught that they're not worth shit, and that the people putting on the shows, the higher ups, Mannion and Company, the whole organization, they all got to get their money. And it's off the backs of the athletes. The athletes have been underappreciated, underpaid, and underrecognized since day one.
No, but I'm talking specifically about David Pecker. Why didn't he? Because who knows? I mean, maybe he wanted to. Maybe he was told not to. You know, I don't know what the deal was. But if there was ever a time in our history where we could have departed from the pittance that bodybuilders were used to being paid, it was under David Pecker's reign. And for
he raised the prize money to $400,000 that one year. I think he wanted to do it. I think someone was tying his hands at that.
I believe. Yeah. I could believe that too. You know. But if you
look, it's not the onus of the people who run the IFBB, you know, the Jim Mannions, to raise the prize money. It's the promoters that need to come up with a better business model to be able to put that money in the sense it was Pecker's job. Now it's Jake Wood's job. You know, the Arnold people, it's their job. It's the promoter's job to get that money and raise that up, because that's going to raise the prestige of the show. If you remember, John, when Arnold first put out $100,000 prize money, the Wieners were really shaking in their boots, and they made some kind of big thing where you got to keep the prize money less than the Olympia, if you remember, because Arnold wanted to jack it right up.
But Dave, at the time Pecker was at the helm, you had Pecker and Arnold standing together on stage. Yeah. Cumulative worth probably $10 billion, okay? Right. You've got two of the most wealthiest people in the country standing right next to each other, presiding over bodybuilding, where the bodybuilder gets $150,000, okay? Right. So when you had Arnold, not only the highest paid entertainer in the entire world, but governor of California, David Pecker, the owner of all these tabloid publications, millions and millions and millions of dollars in advertising and millions in circulation. You had this gigantic thing in front of you, and bodybuilding didn't go anywhere. And to the degree where you can say, well, the prize money went to $400,000. Wow, $400,000. Holy shit.
Well, you know what? I think Arnold
Derby and coast down the hill.
Yeah. I think Arnold would have raised the prize money a lot more had all these new divisions not bloomed essentially and sucked it up. In other words, when Francois won it, it was only bodybuilding, right? Or maybe fitness was
no, right? Because you know what? Because you can't defend Arnold that way, because when Francois won the $100,000 and when Jay was winning 100 plus a Hummer. You know, when Mike won the 100, they didn't have an attendance of whatever they have today. 200,000 people paying. How much you have to pay to go walk that trade show to see vendors hawking protein bars?
Right.
You know, so it wasn't that income stream. So the income stream was lower, far lower. So you would think that with all those income streams, there's money to, you know, up the prize money.
Yeah. Look, there is Ben Weider died with $1 billion in the bank. Okay, so there was money in bodybuilding. Joe Weider was a wealthy man. Betty is wealthy beyond imagination. There was a ton of fucking money in bodybuilding. Only problem is bodybuilders didn't get any of it, and so they were taught they're not getting any of it. So whoever comes along afterwards is used to the fact that you don't have to pay the bodybuilders shit. They're used to it. So that's why they don't get any money. What other sport on earth is treated like this?
It's true. No, you're right. You're right. You're right. It's sad. But you know what? Talking about it, bringing it to attention is what's going to make the change. I mean, if it wasn't for Vince McMahon in the early 90s, Weider never would have given out contracts and the money would have never gone up. So there's always The Rock might be the right person, the messenger at the right time to spark another renaissance in bodybuilding, where we're going to see a higher amount of prize money, a higher amount of opportunities available, maybe even mainstream entrance into that Hollywood world via The Rock, which Arnold went to Hollywood, but he didn't pull many people along with him. That was the problem. If The Rock maybe has ability to do that, I mean, that could be something that would be great for bodybuilders as well.
Yeah, but by the way, I don't in my rant there, I didn't, because Chris brought it up. I want this in Jake Wood by any means. The exact opposite. I think what Jake Wood has done for this is just absolutely, mind-boggling, because no one else stepped up like he did. But I still think if you get a guy like The Rock who can really step this up and pull in, those big mainstream sponsors, it's going to help everybody, Jake included. So I wouldn't look at this as like competition, something bad that's happening. I would all of these guys, other promoters, I would be praying and hoping that The Rock pulls this off. Because
I'm telling you though, John, I just know what my gut. The Olympia is a very strong brand. I think it was a very smart purchase for Jake to make. But I also know that, and I've been there in the Middle East. These Middle Eastern leaders of the country, the sheikhs, think that bodybuilding is the coolest thing they've ever seen. It's like baseball and football is in the United States. These guys will roll out the red carpet and throw the money at the professional bodybuilders. They're like fans. Wow. They have fans. They're like Blackman watching the show. They like to see the bot. They'll put the money out there, and I think that it's foolish to keep it here in the U.S. if we can't grow the brand because it's just not enough money here. Go someplace where someone's willing to open their pocketbooks up and pay for everything. That. And I always liked when the Olympia moved around. I mean, yeah, it's more convenient when it's in the U.S., of course, but it's more exciting sometimes, when it can go to a place where they're going to make it like Disney World because they think it's like they're getting the Super Bowl in football there.
I agree with that.
All right, it's a lot of strong opinions today, and hopefully, I want to congratulate all our winners. We didn't really get to go over everything, but I will cover it during the week on the other shows. A lot of the pictures are.
We get juiced up over money more than the shows, Dave.
Well, it was it's interesting because I see and I smell change in our world, and that's a good thing for bodybuilding. I think, because it's going to mean that we're going to have more opportunities for the bodybuilders, as John said. I think the bodybuilders are the people who make the sport, and they should really be the ones that reaping a lot of the rewards, and they're not. And so, I think that with Jake and new blood at the helm, I think we're going to see new things. And I think another exciting thing is we've got to mention, with Tyler Mannion kind of moving into a position as a young man who's going to be running things, after his grandfather, steps down. I think that's good also for the sport because, new fresh ideas in there as well. So, I mean, we have a lot of good stuff happening over the next, I think, 5 to 10 years in bodybuilding. And I think that The Rock is he's the first celebrity to ever say, you know what, I'm going to support bodybuilding. There's a lot of other guys that could have done it, along the way, but they didn't.
Yeah, like Arnold.
Well, Arnold got involved to a certain degree, but I think The Rock is the guy who wants to run for president. Can you imagine that? The president of the United States who actually likes bodybuilding?
Well, look, I don't want to overshadow Arnold's, political aspirations or accomplishments either. Arnold, is a household name. So, the fact that, he presides over bodybuilding to some degree, owes his success to it, certainly.
But he's older though too, John. So, I mean, at this point, he made a lot of changes in the sport, I think, with the Arnold Classic and everything he did, and that's still going to continue on. But The Rock is young. He's got a lot of fresh ideas. He's got connections, that are fresh and not just connections that he had from 20 years. He's got connections currently, and he can leverage money from these connections and sponsors. And I think that if he goes ahead with this and doesn't get cold feet at the last minute, I think it could be a big thing. I think it could be a big deal.
Look what Paul Dillette did in Canada. I mean, it could be a huge, colorful event.
Right. I think The Rock is, and the fact that The Rock is not trying to start his own organization, but is doing it within the confines of the IFBB is something that's even more exciting, because that, once again, is going to raise up the whole sport. It's not going to create it's not going to divide the sport, which is what we don't want, obviously.
It's still competition for the Olympia.
Yep, that's good. Competition is good. It's good because, it's good for the athlete, at least. It might not be good for the promoters, but it's great for the athletes. But I think Jake has a very, very, very strong brand, and if he manipulates it and uses it right, he not only is he going to make a lot of money, but he's going to be able to really raise the sport of bodybuilding up to another level.
And, he had a rough first year, man. So you got to hand it to him for still hanging in.
Amen for sticking it out, because he didn't have to.
Absolutely. So, props to him for that.
Ramy should be the one who's really very happy about it. He might have been Mr. Olympia right now. Exactly. Brandon Curry might still be Mr. Olympia by virtue of there not being an Olympia. They canceled the freaking Olympics, for God's sakes, right? So, all right. Well, let's wrap this thing up. We're running out of time. Until next week, as we say every week, remember, with Heavy Muscle Radio,
the truth hurts.
Good night, everyone. Have a great one.